Alright, hello and welcome. In this video we are going to go over decals. So first off, what is a decal? Well, a decal is kind of as it suggests, and even as the icon suggests, it's a sticker. You can think of it as a sticker. So it is it essentially a texture that gets projected on top of a surface. So regardless of the UVs or the texture that the surface has applied to it, we can simply project an image onto a surface or multiple surfaces, essentially anything within this volume. Okay, so decals can be used to do lots of things. Typically it's used to add variation to repetitive textures or meshes. It is also used, we can do things like this where we've got text on a wall. We can use a decal to do, some type of chevron pattern going over multiple different surfaces. Again, this is, as I move this, these are just decals. We can use them to just apply roughness variation in the form of this decal here. We have just kind of a decal with some roughness information, again just to vary up surfaces. Over here we've got the same image that I was using for my roughness, but I'm using it as kind of a texture breakup over multiple surfaces, again to hide the fact that all of these static meshes are the same, but giving them some visual difference with the decal, and also making them somewhat cohesive. As I run this entire decal over all of these surfaces, it starts to make the surface a bit more cohesive, feeling that all of these things are kind of living in the same environment and have gotten dirtier, or the same kind of amounts of dirty over time. So while I have this front cage thing, the wall back here, the top of the wall, the pillar, so on and so forth, again I can bring together kind of all of these assets by putting some type of a decal on them. So let's start with creating kind of a very basic decal, some type of text that we might want to put on something. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up Photoshop. I've got an image here, a full RGB image, 3-channel RGB image that is, sorry, let me look at the size, 512 by 512, so nothing too large. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill the background with black, and then I'm going to generate a mask of the text that I want. So I'm going to hit T to go into the, I'll actually get a new layer here. I'll hit T to go into the text tool, and let's just put caution here and kind of put this in the middle. Where's my, it really doesn't matter. Just bring the size down a bit, and I'll just center this, and there we go. So we have our first mask here. There we go. Now I've got my, I can try to center this, although again it really doesn't matter. There we go. All right, so we've got this mask, okay, and yeah, so let's just save this out. I'll save this out as a targa. I'll throw it onto my desktop, and I'll call it decal caution. I'm going to save it as a targa, so I'll go ahead and hit save. I don't want an alpha channel, so I'm going to save this 24 bits per pixel, and then let's just import this image in. All right, decal caution. There we go. We've got our first image. So I'll right click on this and create material. And it's already called decal caution matte, so that'll be fine. Let's click on this and open it up. So by default, since I clicked on it on the texture and created the material, it just plugged it into the base color. That's not necessarily what I want to do. So I'm just going to break this real quick. And okay, so the first thing I need to do is change my material domain from surface to deferred decal. Once I do that, we'll see that we get this warning: material using the deferred decal domain needs to use the blend mode translucent. This saves on performance. So we'll take the blend mode next and switch that to translucent. Okay. Now we just have this kind of black image showing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe this into opacity. Okay, and this is going to mask out everything except my mask, which says caution. Okay, so we'll see now that this is black and my caution here was white. I purposely made this a black and white mask because, again, I wanted to make it a mask so I could actually change the color in here. So I'm going to hold the 3 key and left click to bring up a constant 3, which can be used to get XYZ coordinates or RGB information, or just hold 3 separate values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug that into base color, and I'll click on this, and let's just go kind of this full kind of bright yellow, and we'll see now that we can kind of change that color as we like. So with that, the last thing I need to do is change the shading model. The decal blend mode. So right now it's set to translucent, so it's going to be very translucent. It's not really going to show up all that well. And actually, let me hit apply, and I'll just show you what this looks like. So if you ever make this, we can kind of see what's going on. So with the decal material selected, I can drag it on, and it will kind of be accepted as a decal, and it'll actually work just fine. And I guess that is actually looking okay. So we don't really have an issue here. So the decal blend mode of translucent is fine. Sometimes I've gotten it. Okay, yeah, sorry. So it doesn't show up here when we're outside of the light. So what I need to do is I need to switch it from translucent to kind of what I want this to act as. So let's just kind of go down the line and see what the differences are once it recompiles. There's stain. So stain, you see, kind of stains it. It really kind of looks like it's multiplied on top of everything else. Okay. Next, we've got normal. So this would be if we had, and let me actually show this over here. So when I'm changing these decal blend modes, it's kind of opening up and closing different options for me. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so yeah, right now I've got this normal blend mode, and we only have opacity, normal, and world position offset. Okay, but let's go to emissive, and if I wanted it to glow, this would be the blend mode that I would choose if I wanted it to glow. I would obviously need to plug emissive color into my emissive, and then now this will glow yellow. Okay, but what I really want is I want one of these debuffer options here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is this translucent color, debuffer translucent color, because right now I just want translucency so my mask works, and color, and that's it. And also let me break that emissive and reapply. Okay, so there we go. We've got our sticker, if you will, and this could be, just whatever. It's painted on to the ground. Maybe we've got it just kind of right here, whatever. There it is. Okay, and that works. That's kind of the simplest form there. We could see that the roughness underneath is kind of showing through, and it doesn't really have its own roughness. It's kind of, this looks like it's really kind of under all the dirt and whatnot. So let's go with some other options here. So next I can switch this to translucent color and roughness. So once I do that, I'm going to plug in a constant for roughness, and I'll leave that at 0 so it's really shiny, and we'll go ahead and apply that. Okay, now we can see that it's got its own roughness, and this really now looks like it's a sticker on top. Okay, so we've, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, from here on out. If I wanted normal and roughness, or just roughness, or just color, or color and normal, or all of these, color, normal, roughness. And again, we can see these will open up or close these other options. Okay. All right, so we've got kind of our first decal material there made. So let's, oh, did I not save that properly? What did I do? Oh, right, I switched this. So let's go back to color and roughness, apply that, and close that. All right, so let's jump back over here to Photoshop. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to textures.com. You can sign up for a free account and you're allowed a certain amount of downloads every day. But this site is great for grabbing stuff like decals or even just grabbing some reference. So we've got this decal section. I don't know why I can't see it over here, but if I come over here, okay, right, it's up here. I was looking for it down here, but we've got this decals spot over here, and again, over on the left, we can see once we kind of get in somewhere, we've got all these things. So we can go to HDR, samples, decals, overlays, whatever. But let's go back to our decals. All right, and I'll grab a couple images. Let's go to, let's do leaking. All right, so this one's pretty good. Let's grab this, and let's do maybe that's the one that I wanted. So you can grab the full image, and you'd have to kind of make your own mask, or we can grab this this one here. So I'm just going to grab this small one. Again, I'm using a 512 by 512, so this is going to be plenty large enough. So I'll just download this. We will show this, and then drag this onto Photoshop and drag it into our document. And I'll just kind of line it up here at the top and scale it up like so. So we've got this here. Okay. I need to right click on this and rasterize the layer. All right, but now we've got kind of this this rust, leaking rust here. And let's go back and let's grab one more. So I'm going to grab something like this. I've got kind of a leaking thing, and then I've got this like kind of spot thing here. So let's go back here. Let's grab our new one, throw it on. Okay, don't know why that one wasn't showing up there, but I'll just scale that one up even bigger, like so. Okay, and we'll do the same thing. Right click, rasterize, layer, and now we can use this the way that we need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack 3 of these masks. I'm going to pack this caution, I'm going to pack my leaks, and I'm going to pack my damage into individual RGB channels. So with this top layer selected here, I'm going to do Control A, Control C to copy this. I'm going to come over to my channels and I'm going to paste this. Let's go into my red channel. Actually, I'm gonna make a new. We have to make a new image here because I'm gonna copy and paste this. This gets funky when I've got these are actually layers in its own thing, because then we've already got channel information there. So let me just, to make this easier, let's do a new. And I'll choose 512 by 512. I want to make sure that my resolution is set to 72 and we're at RGB 8-bit. So let's hit create. Okay, so in my channels now, I'm going to select my red and I'll hit Control V. And I've got that information in there. Okay. Next, let's jump back and we will grab our next image. So again, Control A, Control C, come over here to our channels, go into our green, Control V. Oop, what'd I do? There we go. Make sure that's pasted in the green channel. And then lastly, we'll go into the blue with our caution. Okay, so our caution right now is white, and our background was white. This is probably something that I should have done first, is fill it with black, but it's actually okay. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just Control Shift I to invert my selection, and I'm going to hit G and fill this with black. Okay. Now I've really got to do this for all of my layers right now. So I'm going to hit Control D to deselect, and then I'm just going to Control I to invert these selections. Okay. All right. So now I've got this one texture with these 3 masks, and we can see the info that's in my red is red, the info that's in my green is green, and blue is blue. So let's save this out. Decal. I'll just call it packed 01, and I will again save this out as a targa onto my desktop. 24 bits per pixel. Back over in Unreal. Let's just kind of import that. Okay, then I can open up this image in Unreal and we can view the individual channels. So blue I have caution, green I have my drips, and red I have my stain. Yeah, so now I can come back into this decal, this material, and I could swap this image. So I'm just going to select my pack texture there, and we'll hit the arrow to trade out that. Okay, and now what's going to happen is, well, this would look pretty silly right now. Okay, actually doesn't look terrible, but what we can do is now we can choose. So my blue was my caution, so if I plug that opacity in, I'm going to get the caution. Okay. If I take my green, I'll get my, I believe it was drips. Yep. And lastly, I'll do my red to get that kind of damage decal on there. So I can, by using one texture, I can get 3 different images and then color these as I like. So let's swap this to our drips. Let's take the drips and we'll make them kind of a dark, kind of a rust color, dark brown, something like this. The roughness would be quite rough, so let's bring this roughness up to like 0.6 maybe. Let's apply that. Okay, then let's grab our decal of our drips. And let's rotate it up 90 degrees and move it back onto this wall. Right there. And we could kind of place it however we want. So yeah, let's place it over here like this. Now a couple things are happening. We've got all of these things that are inside this volume are being affected right now. So what I want to do is scale this volume in as much as possible so that kind of none of these things, let's go ahead and turn my snapping off on everything. And I really could just, with scaling, we got it off of the pillar. Right, we can see it's kind of on the pillar right now. We push it back into the wall. If I look at the volume, we're okay. But let's say we didn't have that option. So let's say that it's like out like this. And I'm going to pull it down a little bit here so it's kind of on a few things. Well, let's just do it on the pillar. Okay, so it's on our pillar, and maybe we don't want it on our pillar. So what I can do now is I can select my pillar and I can scroll on down. I actually don't even know where this is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type decal. Okay, it's under rendering. And on the pillar, I'm just going to uncheck receives decals. And as soon as I do that, I'll click this on and off so you guys can see. You'll see that we no longer receive decals. Now, that might be great, but this thing can no longer receive any decal. It's not just this decal. The static mesh either receives decals or it does not. So that's an option. But yeah, this is great. So maybe we want these drips. Maybe they're not like rust drips. Maybe they are a little, maybe a newer of a leak. So we can make them a bit more reflective. Let's go extreme here because that's not really showing up all that well from this angle. Let's go ahead and make it completely smooth. And as I look up there, now you can see that we've got that roughness. It also looks like, hold on, it's like very faint. Oh, there it is. That might just be the resolution that I chose. Okay, so let's now kind of give ourselves some functionality with this. Okay, so I'm going to take this material and let's turn it into kind of a master decal. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to convert this to a parameter. and we'll call it Decal Color. The default I will set to just white. Okay, I'm going to do the same with the roughness, Decal Roughness, and I'm going to set my slider min and max to 0 and 1, but I'll leave the default completely smooth there. Our texture sample here, we could convert this to a parameter. Call it Decal Texture, and this will allow us to swap out with different decal textures. Lastly, we could give ourselves, emissive. We could do a lot, but let's just make a couple switches here. So the first switch I'm going to do is, let me right click and I'm going to type in static switch and get a static switch. I actually want a parameter, so I need to delete that. Let's right click again and we'll use static switch parameter. So I will call this red green, and I'll say that the right here it says the switch parameter is by default set to false. So I'm going to plug in red into the default, and then we'll plug in green into true. Okay, and then we'll plug this into the opacity. Okay, so what this is going to do is I switch this on. By default, it's going to show me what's in the red channel, and then if I click this switch, it's going to toggle to the green channel. So let's just save this and check it out in action. All right, and there we go. By default, we're seeing the information that is in the red channel. Okay, so let's also create an instance so we can get at these parameters. All right, let's put the instance in there, and then we'll double click on the instance. So now we'll see that we've got this switch for the red and green. So when I turn this on, it'll switch to what's in my green channel, which is my my drips. And we see there that we're kind of stretching on the wall. All right, but yeah, now I've got my decal color, so I can change this color to whatever I want. There's kind of a rusty color. I can also change the roughness. We can make it, more rough or completely smooth with our switch, or with our decal roughness here. I can also swap it out with different pack textures. So I do have this other pack texture here. So let me just quickly swap this out. Now this is going to show what's in the green channel of that pack texture, and that will show what's in the red channel of this pack texture. So let's put our original texture back, and let's go back into our master, and let's finish this up. So I'm going to add another switch. And this will be I guess we could call this green blue. This will switch from green to blue. So the default is false. So the default, I'll say at this point, would be green. So let's plug green, our green into false, and then our blue into true, and we'll switch that out. Okay, but basically we're saying default, you're going to grab the red. If I turn on this switch here, we're going to show green, and then if I have this switch on, we're going to switch to blue. Okay, so let's apply that, and we'll switch over to our guy here. And again, red and green. So here's my green. And then if I switch this on, we've got blue. Okay, and again I can change the roughness and the color in here just like that. Okay, so hopefully that explains kind of all we need to know about decals. You can see how useful they can be. Again, we can use this for putting up signs. We can use this for just variation in color, or in just roughness, or in all of it, color, roughness, normal, so on and so forth. Decals are incredibly powerful, and they can really help polish your scene. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know.